The Galactic Confederation's flagship pierced Earth's atmosphere on a crisp October morning, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight across the New York skyline. Admiral Zixis stood at the command center, his translucent appendages flowing with patterns of confusion as he studied the sensor readings for the fourth time. "Impossible," he muttered, his universal translator converting the thought patterns into human English. "These energy signatures cannot exist on a Level 2 civilization world." The quantum scanners painted a picture that defied conventional wisdom. Beneath the primitive human cities lay patterns of energy that resembled advanced quantum matrices. The Great Pyramid pulsed with frequencies that shouldn't exist. Stonehenge emitted radiation patterns that matched theoretical models for dimensional anchors. Even the seemingly random placement of Easter Island's Moai statues formed mathematical configurations that his science officer insisted were statistically impossible. "Perhaps our initial assessment was flawed," suggested First Scholar Nira, her crystalline form shifting colors with uncertainty. "The humans achieved space travel far faster than any species we've encountered." Admiral Zixis dismissed her concern with a wave of his upper appendage. "From steam engines to primitive spacecraft in less than 3 centuries. That merely proves their reckless nature. They're children playing with forces they don't understand." The ship settled onto the hastily constructed landing pad in Central Park. Through the view screens, Zixis observed the gathered human leaders, their primitive projectile weapons clutched nervously in their hands. How typical of young species, to greet potential friends with instruments of war. The diplomatic party descended from the ship, their crystalline forms drawing gasps from the assembled humans. President Maxwell stepped forward, extending his hand in what their cultural database identified as a greeting gesture. "Welcome to Earth," Maxwell said, his voice steady despite the historic moment. "We're honored to make first contact with the Galactic Confederation." Zixis extended a partially solidified appendage in return, noting with interest how his quantum sensors screamed warnings when he touched the human skin. There was something odd about their biological makeup, something that made his advanced sensors glitch in ways he'd never seen before. "We come in peace," Zixis announced, using the traditional greeting their xenoanthropologists had recommended. "The Confederation welcomes humanity to the galactic community. We look forward to guiding your species toward true civilization." He noticed several human military officers tense at his words, their faces showing what the database identified as indignation. How amusing that they would take offense at such generosity. The formal pleasantries continued, but Zixis found his attention drawn to the ancient buildings surrounding the park. His personal scanner kept detecting quantum fluctuations from the old stone structures. It was almost as if— No, the thought was ridiculous. These were primitives who still relied on chemical rockets and silicon-based computing. The energy readings must be natural phenomena they didn't yet understand. "We've prepared a comprehensive package of technological and cultural uplift protocols," Zixis announced. "Within a few centuries, humanity might achieve Level 3 status under our guidance." A young human female in what appeared to be scientific attire actually laughed, quickly stifling the sound. Dr. Emily Richardson, according to his database, a quantum physicist, though surely a primitive one by Confederation standards. "Is something amusing, Doctor?" Zixis asked, his translator struggling to convey his subtle tone of superiority. "Not at all, Admiral," she replied, but her eyes held something that made his sensors buzz with warning. "We're simply eager to learn everything you have to teach us." As the formal reception began, Zixis filed away his concerns for later analysis. The energy readings were surely nothing significant. After all, how much could they have missed in their century-long study of this primitive world? Behind him, the ancient stones of New York's buildings hummed with frequencies that predated the Confederation itself, waiting for the right moment to reveal their true nature. 3 months after first contact, Tilera found herself once again staring at the impossible. The holographic display in her research pod showed the acoustic chamber of the ancient Chavin temples in Peru, its architecture displaying mathematical principles that the Confederation hadn't discovered until 50 years ago. "Primitive coincidence," she muttered, her crystalline form flickering with frustration. Random chance backed by trial and error. Are you sure about that? Dr. Jack Thompson's voice made her spin around. The human archaeologist leaned against the doorframe of her pod, a knowing smile playing on his lips. Because I'm looking at 37 similar coincidences across 6 continents. Hilara's form rippled with irritation. The human had an infuriating habit of appearing whenever her research hit a dead end. Dr. Thompson, your species hadn't even discovered basic calculus when these structures were built. And yet here we are, he said, walking over to manipulate the hologram. His fingers danced across the controls with a familiarity that bothered her. Humans shouldn't adapt to Confederation technology this quickly. Look at the resonance patterns. They're not just acoustic chambers. They're quantum harmonizers. Absurd, Tilara scoffed, but her sensors were already confirming his observation. The temple's chambers didn't just amplify sound. They manipulated quantum frequencies in ways that eerily resembled Confederation communication technology. Jack pulled up another hologram, this one showing the pyramids of Giza. You're not the first to study these sites, Tilara. Every Confederation archaeologist who's tried has been reassigned within months. Want to know why? Before she could respond, her pod's alert system chimed. The quantum fluctuations they'd been detecting since arrival had spiked again. This time, the source was the Confederation's own landing pad in Central Park. Interesting timing, Jack mused, checking his primitive wrist device. It's doing that more frequently lately, isn't it? Almost like something's waking up. Tulara's frustration peaked. Your species built cities on top of natural quantum phenomena. You don't understand. These energy spikes are merely natural. Jack interrupted, pulling up another display. Like the perfectly geometric pattern they form across the globe, or how they pulse in sequences that match prime numbers. Those seem pretty deliberate to me. Tilara was about to deliver a scathing reply when her sensors detected something new. The energy spike had triggered a response from the ancient temple they were studying. For a brief moment, symbols appeared on its walls. Symbols that matched no known human writing system but contained mathematical formulas that made her core processors freeze in shock. That's not possible, she whispered, her form losing coherence for a moment. Those equations, they're describing quantum entanglement on a planetary scale. Jack finished, his smile fading into something more serious. Yeah, we've noticed. You know what's really interesting? Those symbols only appear when humans are present. They stay dormant around other species. Tilara's research protocols demanded she report this immediately to the Confederation Science Council. But something made her hesitate. Why are you showing me this? Jack's expression turned grim. Because in 3 days, the Confederation's going to announce their comprehensive uplift program for humanity. They're going to try to teach us things we pretended to forget before their ancestors learned to walk. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. And I want at least one Confederation scientist to understand what's really happening when everything changes. Because it will change, Tilara. The only question is whether you'll help us manage the revelation, or be caught in the shockwave with the rest of your people. As if to punctuate his words, another energy spike pulsed through the region. This time, Tilara's sensors detected something new in the quantum signature. It almost seemed like a countdown. She looked at the human before her, suddenly wondering if she'd been asking the wrong questions all along. It wasn't about how ancient humans had built these structures. The real question was, why had they hidden their true nature for so long? And more importantly, what were they counting down to? The earthquake struck without warning, a 7.2 magnitude tremor that shook the Giza Plateau with unprecedented force. As the dust settled around the Sphinx, Dr. Ashley Williams stood at the edge of a massive sinkhole that hadn't existed 10 minutes ago, her heart pounding at what the shifting sands had revealed. This shouldn't be here, Tilara said, her crystalline form reflecting the Egyptian sun as she scanned the perfectly geometric opening. The bedrock formation doesn't allow for a polished corridor made of material that doesn't exist on Earth. Ashley finished, already climbing down into the opening. Her boots clicked against a surface that looked like obsidian but felt warm to the touch. "Better hurry up, Tilara. Unless you want to explain to your superiors why a primitive human reached this chamber first." The Confederation archaeologist followed, her sensors whirring in protest at readings that defied explanation. The corridor stretched ahead, its walls covered in the same mysterious symbols they detected at sites worldwide. But here, they weren't dormant. They were moving. "Wait," Tilara called out, but Ashley had already reached a circular doorway at the corridor's end. As soon as her hand touched the surface, lines of light rippled outward, and the door spiraled open with a sound like singing crystal. The chamber beyond took their breath away. Holographic displays sprang to life, filling the vast circular space with three-dimensional star maps and mathematical formula that made Tilara's processors stutter. In the center, a crystalline pedestal pulsed with energy that her sensors insisted couldn't exist in this dimension. "Dr. Williams, we should contact the Confederation Science Council before." "Before what?" Ashley's voice had changed, carrying an authority that made Tilara's form ripple with unease. The human scientist walked to the pedestal, as if she'd done it 1,000 times before. "Before we discover that humans built this, that we sealed it away and buried it beneath tons of rock for a reason." The chamber responded to Ashley's presence, displays shifting and reconfiguring. When Tilara tried to approach the pedestal, the holographic interfaces dimmed, responding only to human proximity. "That's impossible," Tilara whispered. "This technology, some of it surpasses our theoretical models. The quantum manipulation alone would require." She froze as Ashley placed her hand on the pedestal. The chamber hummed, and a new hologram materialized, a message written in those same mysterious symbols. Before Tilara could process it, the symbols shifted, translating themselves into modern languages. "To our children, when you're ready to remember," Ashley read aloud, her voice echoing with an odd resonance. "The key was always in your blood, in the patterns we wove into your very essence. When the time comes, you will understand why we chose to forget, why we buried our legacy so deep that even we could not access it until the moment was right." Tilara's sensors detected energy signatures awakening across the globe, pulsing in sync with the chamber's heart. "Dr. Williams, what have you done?" Ashley turned, and Tilara saw something ancient in her eyes. "I haven't done anything. We're just finally ready to remember." She gestured at the star maps, which now showed patterns of movement that made Tilara's core processes freeze in terror. "They're coming back, Tilara. The reason we hid all of this, the reason we chose to forget. They've finally found us again." The chamber's displays shifted, showing scenes that defied comprehension. Humans wielding technologies that could reshape reality, battles that spanned galaxies, and a threat so vast it made the Confederation's greatest weapons look like children's toys. As emergency alerts began flooding in from Confederation outposts across Earth, reporting massive energy signatures emerging from supposedly dormant sites, Tilara realized the truth. They hadn't been studying ancient human ruins. They'd been witnessing the galaxy's greatest deception finally coming to an end. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, something was stirring, drawn back to the world it thought it had broken. Unaware that humanity's apparent primitive state had been the greatest military strategy ever conceived. Dr. Marcus Reynolds collapsed during a preliminary analysis of a crystalline shard from the Sphinx chamber, his body convulsing as ancient neural patterns activated in his brain. When his eyes opened 30 seconds later, he spoke a language that made the Confederation's universal translators shriek and fail. "The variance protocol is initiated," he said in English, his eyes gleaming with knowledge that hadn't existed moments before. "All sites are responding." Around the globe, similar scenes played out. A teenage girl in Tokyo solved quantum equations that had stumped Confederation scientists for centuries. A street vendor in Rio de Janeiro began sketching designs for dimensional drives in the dust of his cart. A kindergarten teacher in Moscow suddenly understood how to manipulate gravity at a fundamental level. In the New York Command Center, Admiral Zixis watched in horror as thousands of energy signatures burst to life beneath Earth's cities. "Contain them," he ordered, his crystalline form flickering with panic. "Lock down all human population centers." "That won't be necessary, Admiral." The voice belonged to Marcus Reynolds, who stood in the doorway with a calm that made Zixis's sensors spike in warning. The human's neural patterns had changed completely, as if a dormant program had finally begun running. "What have you done?" Zixis demanded. "We haven't done anything," Marcus replied, walking to the command center's main display. With a gesture, he accessed systems that should have been impossible for humans to comprehend, let alone control. "We're simply remembering who we are." The display showed scenes from across Earth. In London, the Thames had parted to reveal a facility that made the Confederation's most advanced research centers look primitive. Beneath the ice of Antarctica, a defense network was awakening that could target ships in other dimensions. The Great Wall of China pulsed with energy that suggested it had never been meant to stop merely earthbound armies. "Impossible," Zixis whispered. "Your species was burning coal just 3 centuries ago." Marcus smiled, but there was something ancient in his expression. "No, Admiral. 3 centuries ago, we were finally beginning to remember. The coal age, the digital revolution, our rapid leap to space, they weren't advancement. They were reconstruction. On the screens, more humans were awakening. Each activation seemed to trigger others nearby, like a cascade of dominoes that had been carefully set up over millennia. The Confederation's sensors detected quantum entanglement on a scale that shouldn't have been possible, connecting every human on the planet in a vast network of shared knowledge. "Your species will be contained," Zixis threatened, but his voice lacked conviction as he watched a group of schoolchildren in Kenya casually redesigning the laws of physics. "Look at your own history, Admiral," Marcus said softly. "Every time the Confederation encountered human ruins on other worlds, you dismissed them as natural formations. Every time you found technology you couldn't explain, you convinced yourselves you had invented it." He gestured at Zixis's crystalline form. "Even your current physical form was reverse-engineered from technology we left behind." The ground shook as another facility awakened beneath Manhattan. This time, the energy signature matched exactly with the threat that had appeared at the galaxy's edge. "They're coming back," Marcus continued, his voice carrying the weight of inherited memory. "The enemy that forced us to hide, to encode our knowledge into our DNA, and wait for the right moment to remember. We had to ensure they wouldn't detect us until we were ready." Zixis watched as humans worldwide began instinctively operating technology that his species had deemed theoretically impossible. Ready for what? Marcus's eyes reflected the light of 1,000 awakening systems, ready to remind them why they feared us enough to drive us into hiding in the first place, ready to show them that forcing humanity to start over was their greatest mistake. As if to emphasize his words, a massive shape emerged from beneath the Pacific Ocean, a defense platform larger than Manhattan, its surface covered in the same symbols they'd found in the Sphinx chamber. The awakening wasn't just beginning. It was accelerating. Inside the awakened Pacific defense platform, Marcus Reynolds interfaced with humanity's true history. The memories cascaded through his consciousness, not recordings or data, but lived experiences encoded in the very structure of his DNA. "We were everywhere," he explained to the stunned Confederation delegation. The chamber around them showed scenes of ancient human civilization that defied comprehension. "We didn't just reach the stars, we reshaped them." The holographic display showed human ships that dwarfed solar systems, technologies that could ignite or extinguish suns, and cities that spanned entire galaxies. But beneath the images of power and achievement, there was something else, something darker. There, Admiral Zixis pointed, his crystalline form trembling at the sight. "What are those shadows between the galaxies?" Marcus's expression darkened. "We called them the Void Hunters. They existed before the first stars formed, feeding on dimensional energy itself. When we expanded into space, we became the first species they'd encountered that could actually hurt them. The display shifted, showing an ancient war that made the Confederation's greatest conflicts look like schoolyard scuffles. Humans wielding powers that could tear reality apart, fighting creatures that defied the laws of physics. We were winning, Marcus continued, his voice heavy with inherited memory. But they found our weakness, our connection to our own past. They couldn't defeat our technology, but they could sever our link to our history, make us forget who we were. New images appeared, the desperate last council of ancient humanity, facing an impossible choice. Your species chose to devolve. Tilara asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. We chose to hide in plain sight, Marcus corrected. We encoded our knowledge, our technology, our very essence into our genetic structure. Then we used devices like this platform to manipulate our own evolution, making ourselves forget until the right moment. The chamber hummed as more systems came online worldwide. In orbit, satellites that had masqueraded as space junk revealed their true nature, forming a defensive grid that could trap entire fleets between dimensions. The pyramids, Stonehenge, every ancient structure, they weren't just monuments, Marcus explained. They were anchor points in a planetary network designed to slowly rebuild our consciousness. Each human generation absorbed a fraction more of our lost knowledge, appearing to advance naturally while actually remembering. Admiral Zixus's sensors detected more awakening signatures. The Industrial Revolution was the first large-scale activation of dormant memories, Marcus nodded. The digital age, our leap to space, all carefully planned phases of reawakening. We had to appear to be developing naturally while preparing for their return. The chamber's displays showed current readings from deep space. The shadows between galaxies were moving again, drawn by the energy of humanity's awakening. You understand now, don't you? Marcus turned to the Confederation delegates. Why Earth had so many natural quantum phenomena. Why humans adapted so quickly to your technology. Everything you thought you were teaching us, we originally invented. We weren't ascending under your guidance. We were remembering who we were. A new alert flashed across the displays. More human minds awakening, each activation accelerating the process in others nearby. What had started with a few individuals was becoming a species-wide renaissance. But why reveal everything now? Tilara asked. Why not stay hidden longer? Marcus pointed to the deep space readings. Because they finally found us again. But this time, we're ready. The Void Hunters thought they broke us by making us forget. Instead, they forced us to achieve something unprecedented. The perfect fusion of ancient knowledge with evolved innovation. The chamber's lights pulsed as another defense platform emerged, this time from beneath the Indian Ocean. Around Earth, millions of humans were awakening to their true nature, accessing knowledge that had been waiting in their genes for millennia. We're not just remembering who we were, Marcus said, his eyes reflecting the light of awakening systems. We're becoming something new, something even they aren't prepared for. The shadows between the stars grew closer, unaware they were heading toward humanity's greatest trap, the trap of assuming they had won. Dr. Jennifer Blake walked through walls of solid matter as if they were mist, her awakened consciousness allowing her to manipulate quantum states at will. Behind her, a team of Confederation scientists watched in stunned silence as she casually defied what they had considered immutable laws of physics. Your entire understanding of quantum mechanics is backwards, she explained, reforming from what appeared to be pure energy. You built theories based on observing the shadows of our old technology. It's like trying to understand a hyperdrive by looking at its footprints. In orbit, the situation was reaching a crisis point. The Confederation's mighty warships found themselves becoming increasingly irrelevant as dormant defense platforms continued to emerge from Earth's oceans and landmasses. Each platform demonstrated capabilities that made their most advanced weapons look like slingshots against a stellar array. Impossible, muttered Grand Admiral Vex, watching from his flagship as humans began casually teleporting between continents. No species could hide this level of advancement. "That's exactly why it worked," Jennifer replied, her voice coming from everywhere and nowhere as she materialized on the flagship's bridge. The Confederation crew recoiled as she passed through their supposedly impenetrable shields. "The best place to hide is in plain sight, pretending to be exactly what your enemy expects to see." The ship's displays showed scenes from across Earth. Children were instinctively operating technology that could reshape planetary orbits. Farmers were accessing knowledge about dimensional engineering that made the Confederation's best theories obsolete. Every human was becoming a living key to powers their ancestors had hidden within them. "Your fastest ships," Jennifer continued, gesturing at the Confederation fleet. "The quantum cores that power them. We designed those, left the blueprints scattered across 100 worlds. Your greatest scientific achievements were breadcrumbs we dropped, leading you down paths we chose." Grand Admiral Vex's crystalline form flickered with indignation. "The Confederation has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, and humanity ruled it for 1,000,000 before that," Jennifer replied softly. "Every mysterious alien ruin you studied, every natural quantum phenomenon you discovered, all of it was ours. We seeded the galaxy with our technology, knowing that younger races would eventually reverse engineer it. It helped us track development patterns, predict which species might help us when we finally remembered." As if to punctuate her words, another defense platform emerged from beneath the Sahara Desert. This one was different. It began transforming the surrounding space, creating what appeared to be a dimensional pocket large enough to swallow a solar system. "That's a garrison base," Jennifer explained, noting the Confederation leader's terror. "One of thousands we hid across Earth. Each one contains enough firepower to end a galactic war. We're not just waking up our knowledge. We're waking up our entire military infrastructure." The ship's sensors detected more dimensional pockets opening worldwide. Each one contained vast fleets, weapon systems, and technologies that redefined what was possible. Humanity hadn't just hidden their knowledge, they'd hidden entire armies. "We offer you a choice," Jennifer said, addressing not just the flagship but the entire Confederation fleet. "The Void Hunters will reach this galaxy in less than a month. They think they're returning to finish what they started, to eliminate a primitive species that barely remembers them. Instead, they're going to find every trap we spent 100,000 years preparing." She waved her hand, and the ship's displays showed the true scale of humanity's awakening. The entire Sol system was becoming a fortress, powered by technologies that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. "Stand with us," she offered, "and we'll show you what humanity is truly capable of. Fight against us, and—" she gestured at their fleet's supposedly advanced weapons. "Well, let's just say those toys you reverse-engineered from our scraps won't help you much." In the silence that followed, another wave of awakening swept across Earth. This time, the power spike was so massive it rippled through subspace, sending a clear message to the approaching enemy. The children of Earth were done playing at being primitive. It was time to remind the cosmos why humanity had once been feared above all others. Deep space sensors detected them first. Massive distortions in the fabric of reality, moving between galaxies like sharks through dark water. The Void Hunters had returned, drawn by the energy of humanity's awakening. In the dimensional command center beneath Mount Everest, Marcus Reynolds watched their approach alongside Admiral Zixus, whose crystalline form had darkened with dread. The displays showed the true form of their enemy, beings of pure dimensional energy, each one capable of devouring solar systems. "They're bigger than before," Marcus noted, accessing memories that weren't his own. "They'd been feeding on entire galaxies while we slept. How can you be so calm?" Zixus demanded. "Those things broke your civilization at its height. What makes you think?" He stopped as the mountain itself began to transform. The peak split open, revealing a weapon that stretched into dimensions the Confederation hadn't known existed. All across Earth, similar transformations were taking place. The Grand Canyon revealed itself to be the barrel of a device that could shatter reality itself. The Amazon rainforest shifted, each tree becoming part of a vast biological computer network that could predict quantum probabilities. They broke us at our height, Marcus agreed, his eyes reflecting calculations beyond Confederation mathematics. But we're not at our height anymore. We're something new. The displays showed humanity's transformation accelerating. The natural innovation of their evolution was fusing with their recovered ancient knowledge, creating hybrid technologies that had never existed before. Children born in the last 24 hours were already displaying abilities that their ancestors hadn't possessed. Look there, Marcus pointed to a cluster of void hunters approaching the Andromeda galaxy. In our previous form, we could only fight them in physical space, but humanity's forced regression created something unprecedented. We learned to perceive reality in ways our ancient selves never could. As if demonstrating his point, Jennifer Blake appeared in the command center, having teleported from the Confederation flagship. But this wasn't simple matter transmission. She had moved through layers of existence the void hunters didn't know could be accessed. "The quantum grid is ready," she reported. "Every human on Earth is now connected to the defense network. We're seeing abilities we didn't even encode into our DNA. Our evolution created them naturally." The displays showed the approaching enemy more clearly now. The void hunters moved like living holes in space, their very presence corrupting the laws of physics. But where they had once inspired terror in humanity's ancestors, they now triggered something else. Recognition. "You feel it too?" Jennifer asked Marcus, noting his expression. "We didn't just hide from them. We spent 100,000 years learning to understand them. Every generation of humans who looked up at the stars in wonder, every child who asked why space was so dark between galaxies, we were unconsciously studying our enemy." Zixus watched in amazement as humans worldwide began coordinating without speaking, their awakened minds linking across quantum networks that existed beyond normal space. The defense platforms weren't just weapons, they were focus points for humanity's collective consciousness. "Last time, we fought them with pure power," Marcus explained. "This time," he gestured at the displays, where human children were instinctively predicting the void hunters' movements. "This time we fight them with understanding." The first wave of void hunters reached the galaxy's edge, their ancient hunger driving them toward the energy signatures they recognized from eons past. But as they approached, something made them hesitate. The humans they had broken were gone. In their place was something that had evolved specifically to face them. A species that had turned its own defeat into the ultimate weapon. "Admiral Zixus," Marcus turned to the Confederation leader. "You have 1 hour to decide. Stand with humanity as equals, or withdraw from this galaxy entirely. What's coming will reshape reality itself." In orbit, Earth's defense grid fully activated, each platform powered by the combined consciousness of billions of awakened humans. The trap that had taken 100,000 years to prepare was finally ready. The true war for existence was about to begin. The void hunters struck with the force of a dying universe, expecting to find the broken remnants of their ancient enemy. Instead, they hit a dimensional maze that humanity had spent 100 millennia perfecting. "Now," Marcus Reynolds commanded. His consciousness merged with Earth's defense grid. Across the planet, billions of awakened humans responded as one. The trap that had taken generations to prepare finally snapped shut. The Sahara Desert vanished, revealing itself to be a vast quantum computer that could predict the void hunters' movements across 11 dimensions. The Pacific Ocean split apart, each drop of water becoming a lens that focused reality itself into weapons never before seen in this universe. Impossible, the void hunters communicated across dimensional barriers. The humans were broken, primitive, weak. Jennifer Blake's laugh echoed through subspace as she led Earth's first counterattack. "We were never broken," she projected, her consciousness riding waves of pure quantum energy. "We were becoming something you couldn't comprehend." The battle erupted across multiple planes of existence. The Void Hunters fought with the same tactics that had brought down humanity's ancient civilization, corrupting space-time, devouring energy, breaking the laws of physics. But this time, humanity was ready. Children in kindergartens across Earth instinctively predicted the enemy's movements, their evolved minds seeing patterns their ancestors had missed. Farmers and teachers wielded powers that made their ancient weapons look crude, their natural innovation combining with recovered knowledge in ways that rewrote reality's rules. Admiral Zixus watched from the Confederation flagship, his crystalline form vibrating with awe. The humans weren't just fighting. They were redefining what was possible with each passing moment. Every attack the Void Hunters launched was met with a defense that hadn't existed seconds before. Humanity's unique fusion of evolution and ancient knowledge creating strategies on the fly. The dimensional anchors are ready, Marcus announced. Around Earth, the structures once dismissed as primitive monuments revealed their true purpose. Stonehenge, the pyramids, the Easter Island statues, they weren't just nodes in a defense network. They were the keys to humanity's greatest weapon, understanding. The Void Hunters reeled as their dimensional tricks failed. Humanity had spent 100,000 years living in the shadows between realities, unconsciously learning the very nature of their enemy. Now that knowledge combined with their awakened power, turning the Hunters' greatest strengths against them. You feared us enough to make us forget. Jennifer's voice resonated across the battlefield. But forcing us to evolve from scratch was your ultimate mistake. We didn't just recover our old strength. We transcended it. The final phase began. Every human on Earth linked minds, forming a consciousness that existed across all planes of reality. The defense platforms, the hidden weapons, the planetary shields, all of it had been leading to this moment. We understand you now. Humanity spoke as one. We see what you truly are. The Void Hunters tried to retreat, but the trap was complete. Humanity's 100,000-year gambit had created something unprecedented, a species that could perceive the fundamental nature of their greatest enemy. In orbit, the Confederation fleet watched as reality itself seemed to bend. The humans weren't just fighting the Void Hunters, they were redefining them, using their evolved understanding to transform the very essence of their ancient enemy. When it was over, the galaxy had changed forever. The Void Hunters weren't destroyed. They were transformed, their fundamental nature shifted by humanity's impossible victory. The threat that had nearly broken human civilization now faced its own evolution, forced to change by the species they had tried to erase. In the aftermath, Admiral Zixus approached Marcus in the Dimensional Command Center. "You knew," he said. "Your entire species knew this was coming." Marcus smiled, watching as humans worldwide began exploring their new reality. "We didn't just hide our power," he explained. "We hid our greatest truth. Sometimes the only way forward is to forget what you were, so you can become what you need to be." Above Earth, the stars shone brighter in a galaxy forever changed by the species that had pretended to be primitive, only to prove themselves the true masters of reality itself.